Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for turning in. We appreciate it. My name is Andrew Champagne. I'm a member of the Democratic State Committee. I'm also the Ward 2 Burlington Chair for the Democratic Party. I want to first of all thank Channel 17 for being such gracious hosts. And they're always so kind, and we're grateful. They're a great studio here, so I want to say hello to everyone on the crew and thank them. Megan isn't here today, but I definitely want to give her a shout out, and obviously to Dan and Kevin. So hello from the old North End of Burlington. We are right in the heart of the old North End. We're located on the corner of North Winooski Avenue and Archibald Street. And this is a great facility if you've never been here or seen it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm by myself today, so I got 30 minutes to fill. And what I wanted to do at the start was we've had a little change in the program's leadership. Miss Judy Stephanie Ahern, for many years, was the executive producer of the show, and she's kind of taken a break. So my name again is Andrew Champagne, and Sam Donnelly, the chair of the Burlington Democrats, we've taken over kind of trying to get some people on the show. So, Judy, I want to thank you. I know you always watch, and I believe that you were elected to the State House in 1974, and I know you were in the State Senate, and you had an epic mayoral challenge with Bernie Sanders. So I believe I left you a message and asked you to come on in the next couple months, and we're going to do a whole half hour on Burlington Democratic history from, let's say, 1970 to 2020. Boy, amazing 50 years, amazing development in Chittenden County. And Judy, I want to thank you for your service. You've been on so many boards and all sorts of organizations. And by my rudimentary math, I think that's about 45 years in politics, maybe more. So thank you. Let's start today. I'm not going to dwell on it. It's not easy for the country. The impeachment hearings began today on President Trump, and the evidence does look extremely serious. I do believe perhaps there were high crimes committed, and let's let the due process come out and do due diligence. As you know, as someone who's involved in Democratic politics, obviously we're not a fan of Mr. Trump, but it's the first day of the hearing, so we want the truth to come out, and if it's an impeachable offense, well then it is an impeachable offense. It's tough for our country that someone like President Trump, who has been a very poor president, and I have to say that, and it hurts me to say that as an American, because when I was a kid, you kind of grew up, you really wanted to like your president, you really did, and it's very difficult, but President Trump must go, and I'd personally, if I could speak to him, I would probably urge him to resign, I think, for the good of the country. But moving on, and to everyone who's working on that investigation, it must be very difficult. So I wish everyone the best and let all the facts come out and make a due and solid judgment, Constitution judgment come out. Moving on, I definitely want to say hello to Senator Bernie Sanders and to his whole family, to Jane and Karina and Dave and Levy. And I know you're feeling a lot better. The last time we were on the show, I was frankly kind of worried, and you seem like those stents really are miracles, and seems like you're back really hale and hearty, and that's a good thing for everyone. And you know, it's funny, I run into a lot of people, and I sometimes see these people and they say, oh, Bernie's going to fade, Bernie's going to fade. And I have to say, I haven't seen any fade. And so I'm very proud. And I want to, again, shout out to the senator and all his family, and definitely to Shannon Jackson, who was Senator Sanders. He ran his Senate campaign. He's now in the battleground state of New Hampshire. And Shannon is a great guy, and I think they're lucky to have him over there. I believe they have 22 offices in New Hampshire. So obviously a very important state for all the candidates. We seem to have come to a moment when we're down to perhaps 8 candidates that are, maybe 6, maybe 8, that have a solid chance at the nomination. Those are, again, the top 3, I would believe, would be Senator Sanders, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and former VP Joe Biden. Then you have perhaps trailing, but again, I'm sitting in a studio in Burlington. How do I really know how it's going to go? You have Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey. You have Senator Kamala Harris of California. You have Amy Klobuchar, Senator Klobuchar of Minnesota. You have Mayor Pete Buttigieg of South Bend, Indiana. And it looks like we have a new arrival here, and perhaps he's dipped his toes in the water before, is former Mayor Michael Bloomberg, three-term mayor of New York. Now, I'm just going to try to spend maybe a quick minute on each one of these because I do have some time to fill. Let's start with Senator Sanders, a man of very unquestioned integrity, a person obviously with 100% name recognition in Burlington, former excellent four-term mayor of Burlington, many terms as congressman, and now entering his third term. He's a third-term U.S. senator. So amazing resume. As I sit here in the Old North End, I think a lot of this economy and the stuff that we're doing in this neighborhood would not have been possible without Senator Sanders. And so obviously he's a tremendous favorite in Burlington. I believe in Ward 2, where I work at the polls, that the number sounds crazy. He got about 92% of the vote in primary day 216. Okay, again, moving on. Senator Elizabeth Warren, two-term senator of Massachusetts, former Harvard law professor, worked in President Obama's administration, very much interested in the working people, taking on the banks. Always, I think she feels that so there was so much profit made on the great crash or recession of 2006, 2007, all the way to like 2012. She has been engaging her supporters on the campaign trail like Bernie has. She has many offices in New Hampshire. Very policy driven, as is Senator Sanders. People really respond to her. She really is as she is on stage and off. And I think that's the strength of Senator Sanders, too. Okay, moving on. We have Vice President Joe Biden. Obviously, someone with a great deal of name recognition. Just about a 50-year career in politics. 36 years as a U.S. Senator. An extremely effective vice president for 8 years under President Obama. And running, perhaps thought to be the front runner. That all remains to be seen. But someone with many years in Washington, a proven experience of getting things done. And again, so he is, these top three are polling very well in Iowa and then in New Hampshire. For any viewers interested in the minutia of Iowa politics, Iowa is very unusual. What they have is the caucus system. So that would mean on the day of the caucus, you would go to your town and you actually caucus. For example, maybe in Burlington, we would go to Patrick Gym and do it. And to vote, you actually have to be there. And there are several rounds of caucus. And so obviously, it will be held on a Tuesday evening. Obviously, the people that will come to that they'll have the most interest. It's a little more serious than going and voting because it requires a more time commitment and also perhaps several rounds of caucusing. Now, Iowa, I remind people, has 99 counties, and there's been more than one Democratic candidate that's kind of lived and died in Iowa. And I think all these frontier candidates will definitely be moving on to New Hampshire. And then, honestly, Super Tuesday, which I believe is 16 states. And that's on the same day as our primary, which is March 3rd, Tuesday, March 3rd. And you will be able to vote in all 8 wards in Burlington from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Also, we're going to have approximately 1 month of early voting. And we will also have, you can call City Hall, email them, or you can give me a call, and we can get you an absentee ballot. Again, my name is Andrew Champagne, and I live on Green Street. My telephone number is 802-540-0717. That's 802-540-0717. Okay, moving on to more candidates here. Then we have Senator Kamala Harris, who is former Attorney General of California and first-term senator from California. She's done well in the polls. She's done well in the debates. New Hampshire is going to be important for her. Super Tuesday is going to be integral for her, especially when you have like Nevada and California. What I think the DNC has done, and I think it's easy, sometimes people knock the DNC, but I think this was a very sharp move, was they moved the primary up for California. It used to be in June, now it's till March. Now, unfortunately, when it was in June, it really didn't matter because a candidate usually had enough pledge support by then. So now California, with 30 million people, the 8th largest economy in the world, is front and center. Senator Harris will have to do extraordinarily well there. Okay, moving on. Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. Perhaps a little more moderate than some of the candidates. Seems a bit pragmatic. I think she's betting on doing very well in Iowa, which borders on Minnesota. And I think she is also trying to appeal to perhaps more moderate voters, trying to break out of the pack a little bit. Has had a very good Senate career. We'll try to finish in probably the middle of the pack in New Hampshire. Okay, boy, there's a lot of senators this time. Let me remember. Okay, Senator Cory Booker. He's one of my favorites. Got to meet him a couple times. Great guy. He is a senator from, I believe, second term from New Jersey. And then he was former mayor of Newark. And he really did a lot of great things in Newark. There's been a lot of improvements and urban renewal and building of schools and hospitals and universities. Newark actually has a great deal going for it. It's only 12 miles from Manhattan, and for many years it was neglected. And I think Cory has done a lot to reinvigorate that city. They have if you ever want to see a great concert or hockey game, the Devils Arena and Prudential Center in downtown Newark is fantastic. Cory is running hard. I think he's hoping on doing relatively well in Iowa and New Hampshire. He's obviously looking to Super Tuesday. There's a lot of states there. And he's been giving some very energetic campaign speeches. And he's still right in it. If he will be looking to do well, and he will be in it probably to the end. Okay, so let's see. I think I've done 5 or 6. Again, Michael Bloomberg, Mayor Bloomberg. He has tested the waters twice. We'll see if he goes this time. He has turned in the necessary signatures to get on the ballot in Alabama. The conventional wisdom is that he will perhaps forego Iowa and New Hampshire because the infrastructure of the top-tier candidates there is immense, and he will focus on Super Tuesday. A mayor who got a lot of things done, 3-term mayor. I remember him the most fondly, and he'll be remembered in history the most fondly because he pushed through the rule to stop smoking in bars in New York City, and that affected worldwide, including about a year later, 2 years later, to Burlington. And for someone who worked for many years in the bars and nightclubs in Burlington, it really was like a health issue, and I thank him for that. He is getting in pretty late. I'd say very late, actually. We'll see if he can hold up his support. He has the pros and cons of being a billionaire where he can fund his own campaign, but also the con where perhaps some people think the billionaires are not to be trusted in this country. I think I read somewhere that the top 1% own 50% of the nation's assets. I'm sure the founding fathers did not agree with that. I don't think Franklin Roosevelt agreed with that, or John Kennedy, or Lyndon Johnson, or Jimmy Carter, or Bill Clinton, or Barack Obama. There's a couple other candidates that we should talk about. Tom Steyer, another, quote, billionaire, is in the race. Self-funding, I truthfully don't know too much about him. Very much an entrepreneur, running an unconventional campaign. Very much in favor of gun control, sensible gun control, which I 100% support. We also have Andrew Yang, who he's gotten enough signatures to get on the ballot in New Hampshire, and has been raising a lot of enthusiasm. A self-made businessman, and with a lot of interesting ideas, has this dividend tax where he'd like to give every American $1,000 a month, which actually it sounds amazing. It could lift so many people up to more education, or buying a house, or buying a car, or a washer dryer, or fixing their house, or school clothes, or groceries. I'm surprised more people haven't picked up on it. If you look at the defense budget, I think it's 53% of all our spending, and all our social spending, which we hear the Republicans, rail on, is less than 10% of our spending. So there's an old adage, instead of building a fighter plane, so you don't have to have a bake sale. Obviously, the small p progressive wing, really truthfully led by Senator Sanders, has moved the conversation left and toward a more progressive spot. I'm probably also forgetting Marianne Williamson. I liked her in the debate. Very well known from California, author, lecturer, and very spiritual woman who kind of looks at politics a little unconventionally, and it's kind of a breath of fresh air. If I've missed anyone, I'm sure sorry. That's how I see it. I have campaigned in New Hampshire for candidates before. Many of the candidates will be encouraging Vermonters to come over to New Hampshire, and I sure have to give a plug to Senator Sanders' staff. A friend of mine went over on the bus, went over to Concord, and they had a wonderful time and had a great lunch and met with all sorts of campaign staff. So when you go over there, you're really you really are important because you're representing the candidate. You are the ambassador. And when you go over there, and for example, when I did, I'm here for Barack Obama, or I'm here for Hillary Clinton, or I'm here for Ted Kennedy. I did that when I was in high school. Or, Bill Clinton, or I went over there for Bill Bradley, or Governor Dean, or many people. You're meeting some new people, and they get so many calls and so many emails. They are always glad to see a friendly face. And when they hear you're from Vermont, they're always like, hey, that's great. So you can reach out to all these campaigns now through the beauty of the internet. And if you want a fun weekend, they'd love to have you to go over to New Hampshire. And you would do things like registering voters, putting up signs, knocking on doors, going to a rally, maybe trying to, and in the spirit of organizing, if you go over there, I always say bring a friend, because it's more fun, and you're increasing double your efficiency. And again, New Hampshire, it's funny, it's only got one more electoral vote than Vermont, but it's very important because it's positioning in the primaries. Now, there's some people that believe that Iowa and New Hampshire really do not represent the country. I'm sorry, I can't see how many minutes there. I'm sorry, how many do I have? 10? Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank the production here. I'm sorry, it's hard with the bright lights to see the sign. But for some reason, these two states are first. And I'm not sure they really represent the country. I'm very glad that Super Tuesday has been moved up to March. And as I said, New Hampshire will be a battleground. I am very impressed so far. The Democrats have kept the complaining about each other to a minimum. President Reagan had this funny quote that he would always say. He'd call it the 11th commandment. And he would say, thou shalt not criticize another Republican. And that worked very well for him. And I always believe that in the primary. I think we have some incredible candidates. They've all done very well in the campaign. I realize also Tulsi Gabbard, I believe, is still in the race. And she was in Vermont about a year ago in Burlington. And boy, she was an impressive person to see and meet. And I think she really liked it here. She is obviously doing well in Super Tuesday, perhaps in California and in the western states. She has done pretty well in the debates, and she's a very strong campaigner. So I apologize, Representative Gabbard. We do appreciate you coming to Burlington. That was a great event down at the Black Box Theater. I have about 8 minutes left. So what I would like to talk about tonight, with this few minutes left, is that the reorganization of the Democratic Party, which we have to do every 2 years, which is required by state law. So it's a little bit of a complicated thing. We start at the town or city level. We elect new Democratic officers, a chair, a vice chair, a treasurer, an assistant treasurer, and a secretary. We then move on to the county chairs. We have 14 counties in Vermont, and I'm going to name them off to you. I learned how to do this. There's Addison, Bennington, Caledonia, Chittenden, Franklin, Grand Isle, Essex County, Lamoille County, or Orange County, Orleans County, Rutland County, Windham County, Windsor County, and Washington County. Now these 14 counties all across the state, and Chittenden being the largest by far in terms of population and voting percentage, we elect a chair, a vice chair, a secretary, a treasurer, an assistant treasurer, and also 2 representatives to the State Democratic Committee. I've been fortunate enough to be reelected again to the State Democratic Committee, along with my good friend Lizzie Haskell. And so we go down to Montpelier about every 7 weeks and meet. Now, the Democratic Party is going to have a big fundraiser, not a big ticket, but a big fundraiser in terms of people on Saturday. And Saturday afternoon at 4:30 at the Snowflake on the Mountain Road in Stowe. Again, that's the Snowflake on the Mountain Road in Stowe. We're going to have a Congressman Grace Michelle, who she is a congresswoman from Queens, and she is also vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. We're going to have some nice food and drink there that we're expecting. I've been told that we're going to have several hundred people there. Again, you can reach out to me, Andrew Champagne, 802-540-0717, or you can call down to the Vermont Democratic Party in Montpelier, and that number is 802-229-1783, and you can probably go online with that, probably vermontdemocrats.com, or it's vermontdemocrats.org. But again, at the Snowflake, 4:30 on Saturday, November 16th, on the Mountain Road in Stowe. It's going to be great. It's called our Autumn Harvest Party. And like the Autumn Harvest, we take toll. We look what we've done in the spring and the summer and fall, and we plan again for the winter. We are entering a big presidential primary, and then in August, if deemed necessary, we will have primaries. And then in November, I believe it's November 3rd, 2020, we will have the race for the presidency. We'll have a congressional race here. We'll have a governor's race, lieutenant governor, auditor, attorney general, state treasurer, and then all the 150 in the state legislature and the 30 in the state senate. So it's going to be quite a busy time. Couple things I would like to talk about, because I do register a lot of voters, is if you feel you're not going to be in the state, or you're not around, or you're not feeling well, or you don't have a car, you can call or write or email your town clerk and get an absentee ballot and vote early by mail. Now that is done, you don't even need a stamp on that. And actually you can call and a justice of the peace can come pick that up at your house. Also, we have, I believe, 5 minutes left. Thank you. Also, you can go to your town clerks, and we're going to have early voting here about 30 to 35 days before the election. So in early February, you will be able to, for example, in Burlington, go to city clerks, 149 Church Street, downtown Burlington, and vote from 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. So there's so many easy ways to vote. Over 30%, closer to 35, I bet now, of Vermonters vote early, either at city clerks or they request an absentee ballot. So, sometimes people can't make it to the polls. Not everyone likes going to the polls. They want to sit down with a ballot and take an hour and really figure it out. So we can do that with an absentee, or we can do that, you can take all the time you need at the city clerks. I'd just like to thank Philip and Tenzin and Amy and Holly and Lori at City Clerks. Christine, if I'm missing anyone, they are so kind. We really do have the best voting laws in the United States. We have same-day registration and voting. We have vote early by mail. We have vote early at city clerks. Now, what is going to happen at this election is when you go to your polling place, or you go to City Hall, or you get a ballot by mail, you're going to get 2 ballots. You're going to get a Republican and a Democratic ballot. Now, what they sometimes do is they ask you which one you want, or in some cases, they'll give you both and you discard one. The state of Vermont doesn't want to know what ballot you took, because one thing that's interesting about Vermont, we don't have registered independent Democrat or Republican. For example, I love the Democratic Party, but we do not have party registration, so I can't say I'm a registered Democrat. I am a registered voter. We're winding up here. I think we're down to just the last couple minutes, but I hope I've been able to do a recap. Again, Stowe on Saturday at 4:30 at the Snowflake on the Mountain Road. It looks like that the Democrats in Burlington will have our caucus to pick our city council and inspector of election candidates. It's looking around January 12th. That date has not been finalized. It will probably be at Burlington High School. It will probably be on a Sunday afternoon. And that we really want a lot of people to come to, but we have another meeting or two before that. So again, I'd like to thank Channel 17. It's been a good half hour. I'm always amazed once I start how fast it goes. You know, when I'm preparing, I think, oh man, a half hour. But there's always so much to talk about. I would say that the big political stories will be New Hampshire, will be registering voters, will be working on town caucuses, and preparing for a monumental 2020. Again, my thanks to Channel 17. I appreciate all of you. A+ production staff here. And we are on the air the second Wednesday of the month at 5:25. It's called Live at 5:25 with Burlington Democrats. And if you'd like to watch it, you can also queue this up and watch past shows. Next month, I'm not sure I'll be on, but we'll have a full slate of people. We'll have guests. We hopefully will have a lot of legislative candidates. And if anyone would like to reach out to me, it's Andrew Champagne. I live on 32 Green Street. And the easiest way is just give me a call, 802-540-0717. Looks like I have about 1 minute left. Is that correct? Okay. I'm just going to sum things up. New Hampshire is going to get very busy. There's another debate on November 20th. I think my friend Glenn Walter at Three Needs, the pub on Pearl Street, they have a room there called the Frank Lloyd Wright Room where they watch the debate, and it's really great. I believe that will be from 8 to 11 on November 20th, and I think I'll be there registering voters. I will also be registering voters at Higher Ground on Tuesday the 19th for a great band called Dark Star Orchestra that do the music of the Grateful Dead. I'd like to thank all my friends at Higher Ground for that opportunity and all that. They've been doing so many shows in a row, so I want to give them a shout out. I'm just about done here. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Please get involved and, again, support your community.